Around about the age of 5, I was told if I didn't speak in tongues and get baptized, I was going to burn in hell. Or, if Armageddon kicked off, my family would rise to heaven and I would be left behind. That's a really harsh thing for a kid that age, especially when you believe the adults around you. And this led to a lot of anxiety. I remember, at that age, calling out to God to save me and trying to speak in tongues and desperate that I wouldn't burn for eternity. And it was a shocking thing. And I remember in tears calling out to God that I didn't want to burn. And it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for the rest of my life. I spoke in tongues when I was about 6. I've got some questions about that. I think it was more programmed than real. But at that stage, I was grateful. I was relieved. And as soon as that happened, I was told that, you've always got to be on the watch out. The devil's out to get you and deceive you and take you away from God. So you were never really safe. And I remember that age, crying out to God, yelling out to God to save me. That was something that a kid that age shouldn't go through. And that's still happening today. I know that's happening in Pentecostal cults across Australia today. They're still doing that thing. Most people that escape these places that have been born into it have complex PTSD. Just from programming like that from a little age. And if you confront the adults or the people that do it, they'll say, but the Bible says this. But the Bible says that. They don't take responsibility. They offload their responsibility to the Bible. I can twist the Bible to suit anything. I can manipulate the scriptures. And for thousands of years, people have been doing that. They've been manipulating the scriptures to do bad things and then offloading their guilt to, but the Bible said, and not really thinking about the process. A preacher's told them to do that, so they'll do that and they'll believe it's in the Bible and they will never look at the harms. So we know the harms of that behavior. There's thousands of out there that are suffering psychological damage from places like this that have done those practices and other stuff on top of that. We should look at the harms. And also we need to take responsibility. The adults need to take responsibility and what damage they do to the kids as well. If I had us stuck in that place, I would have been forcing my daughters to do the same thing. We got them out. They didn't have to go through that process. But I know each week that process is still going and then the other harsh realities into it. And we need to look at the damage done instead of just saying, but the Bible says this and then carrying on the same horrible mistakes. Because these mistakes keep going and going and going. And, use your brain. Think, hey, we can stop the damage. Not just say, but the Bible says this, or somebody's interpretation says this, and continue it for another generation.